Greetings and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Azazel. This daily run was tight, and I think this was the perfect example of what people want out of dailies more, but I don't necessarily agree with that, and I would like to spend maybe the majority part of this episode talking about it. So, when I say that this run was tight, I really meant that a lot of the high scores, or at least the top 10, were very close together, so those min-maxy decisions that you made, which items you picked up, how fast you were, how many rooms you've explored, actually end up making a really big difference whatever you place in the top 3, for example, or if you place in the top 10 or maybe even the top 20. And I think a lot of people, when they say they want a more skill-based approach to scoring in Isaac, they mean exactly that. They want penalties, damage penalty to be punished more, or at least be accountable for more. Basically, you can't find a way to break the game somehow, and just because you got lucky, you end up ranking well. And obviously there's still some element of that, just because it's Isaac. If you find something like Epic Fetus early on when nobody else does it, you're still gonna naturally have a better score overall, just because you did find a very powerful item. But I think in average, a lot of people, what they think is that they shouldn't reward that kind of variance. And I do agree to some extent. Obviously, if you're talking about competitive aspects of dailies, there shouldn't be any variance. Everybody should play the same run. But I think the beauty of Isaac is that these variance dailies can happen, and even if you're a really bad player, you can just play a lot of dailies and eventually you're bound to get a good run and you're gonna rank well. And this is something that I've seen happen time and time before, especially on those special dailies which a lot of the pros don't really play because they have way too much random shit going on. But essentially, when those weird special dailies happen, you can see a lot of people rise to the top which generally don't really rank that well, and I think that's really good. That's really encouraging for the people playing. I think that's good for the health community of daily runs, and that doesn't really necessarily mean that you're a bad player. So if you just lose one daily or maybe a few dailies in total, it doesn't make you necessarily a bad player if someone does better than you. It just means that in that particular daily, someone was a better player. And as far as that goes, I definitely think that dailies are not a good representation of skill at all. It doesn't really tell you, especially from a day-to-day basis, who a good player is and who a bad player is. In order to really evaluate something like that, I think we would need much more rigorous ways of testing and showing score and things like that. And with just how the system is structured now, I definitely think it doesn't necessarily improve on that, and definitely isn't something that we can tell reliably. And for that reason, I think there's no reason to be upset whenever someone does better, and I kind of encourage variance in dailies to some extent. Obviously, I don't like the things like different devil deals depending on where you enter from them, and obviously if someone finds something because they made the bad decision, I also don't really agree with that. But just because this is Isaac, all of those elements have some semblance to them, and they make sense, and if you can reward those things in some aspect, I don't see a reason why you shouldn't. If someone was ballsy enough to enter the first curse room as Judas, even though it results in instant death in 80% of the cases, that means that in that particular daily, they might have been successful and they might have gotten Guppy just out of the 3 items that they've gotten. And I definitely think that that's a problem if you're looking at dailies on a day-to-day basis, because why would you ever go into the curse room as Judas? You're obviously gonna die in like 80% of the cases, like I said before. So in the average case, if you did the same thing, most often than not, it's gonna end up resulting in a bad end result. You're gonna end up dying, and obviously you can't really compete if you're dead. But in that one particular case, just because that one player made that mistake or that decision, it led him to maybe getting a really good run. And I don't think that devalues people who didn't go to that particular secret room or item room or curse room or whatever, because it doesn't mean that that player is a better player. It's quite obvious that if someone does that, they're not a particularly smart player in the first place, at least, or maybe they don't care enough. I'm not trying to imply that if you go to the curse room with a Judas, that you're not smart or anything like that. I'm just trying to say that maybe you're not as knowledgeable about the game. Maybe you like taking risk. Maybe you just like playing dailies which turn out to be good, and you just do decisions like that all the time. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But what's important is to realize that in the majority of the cases, that decision is gonna end up costing you the daily run, and you're gonna rank very low. But what we should really strive to do is encourage people in some way to make those decisions that rewards people for making the right decisions, for making the optimal decisions. And I think you can do that if you just compare scores on a day-to-day basis. And I always say this, and I've said it many times in the past, but looking at multiple scores at once, looking at variance, looking at the averages, maybe the median, just a lot of these different statistical ways of approaching it would be such a nice way to actually get a better insight. Maybe it would be nice to see the rolling averages over a period of time so you can see if you're actually improving. Maybe what would be even better if we had the control of which players we compare each other to. But I think that just with the system how it is now, there's really nothing there. It's just really a daily score that just compares you on some arbitrary metric. Obviously it's not completely arbitrary, there is some correlation between how high score of you've gotten and how good of a player you are, but it isn't as strong as maybe we would like it to be. And because of that, I think it really makes no sense to waste your time and energy over worrying that someone might have had a better daily in one particular case, even though it is infuriating. If you're trying to be the best and you're trying to stay in the top 5, I imagine that's a very grueling task, because one bad daily can essentially throw you off and you can never climb back up again. And I really don't know what to do for that. I think there are some other things which we should address in order to kind of fix that, but as it is now, I don't think there's anything that we can really do about it. It's just about the mentality, and if somebody does enjoy doing that, more power to them. But I know personally that I couldn't handle being focused and trying to play every daily as optimal as I can, because it's just not how I enjoy the game, and I think that's what's maybe the biggest takeaway here. You need to know why you're playing dailies, and if you're playing dailies to mainly have fun, I think the important part to realize is that we play this because I think it's fun to compare the same run with each other, and I hope that most people who actually watch these videos watch them partly because they want to get better at the game, because I tend to maybe showcase and give you some strategies which I think would be applicable, but mainly so because they maybe played the daily themselves and they just wanted to see how they compare to other players. And you know, obviously there's a lot of dailies on YouTube, and just overall you can watch them whenever you want, but maybe this is just another introspective from a player which plays the game a bit differently than usual, and I hope that I provide you with that type of content, and that's mainly what these dailies are. They're also a nice way for me to vent and just talk about random things, because obviously you can't just talk about a daily every single time. Just talking about the items I think would be quite boring, so just to have a way to have like a daily vlog of sorts, but maybe more game Isaac focused, I think is a good way of going about it, and that's what kinda I was striving for. But of course, we do have to touch the daily a bit, and there's something very special that I've done on this particular daily which I haven't done in any other daily so far. And you might be saying, did you maybe pick up a certain item which you don't pick up? No, but I'm not even gonna let you guess, because regardless of what I say, it's not gonna be funny. But I went to Delirium, actually fought Delirium. Most often than not, just end up quitting before it. But in this one, I felt strong. I was feeling kind of frisky, so to say. And because I still had the Holy Mantle from this new trinket that gives you Holy Mantle at the start of the floor, I managed not to get hit even once during the whole Void floor. I decided I'm just gonna go in and try to fight Delirium. So far in my Isaac history, I haven't fought Delirium, and that might seem a bit crazy to you, because you might say, don't you play single player? And what happened with my single player save is that I deleted my old save file because I wanted to restart a new one. I realized that it was going to be quite a grueling task to actually get back up and just do all the achievements. And because I was playing Isaac dailies on basically a daily basis, there was nothing left for me to discover in single player mode, because obviously all of the items are already unlocked in all of the modes. So when I tried to get back into the single player mode, I guess didn't have that excitement of unlocking new things, because I knew what the new things were, so I just kind of stopped and never got around to it. So in turn, because I never unlocked the Void, I never even went to Delirium and fought it, and this is the first time ever that I've actually fought Delirium, and oh my god, this boss is bullshit. I know this is something that a lot of people have been saying, I just never wanted to express it out loud, because I think I have no merit, based that I've never fought it, but oh my god, this boss is not fair. Just, there's nothing remotely fair about this boss. Sure, you know, he has some tears, but just the fact it changes so rapidly towards the end and just teleport and there's so many bullets everywhere, I don't see how you can get by without getting hit at least a few times. Maybe there are some patterns which you can recognize, like with Harsh. I remember the first time we fought him, we were also very confused, and I'm sure that there are some things which you can exploit and do, but some of these patterns really seemed random, and usually, you know, when you play the game for a long time, you have a pretty good idea whatever you can maybe learn or dodge something, but in this case, as it teleports, one particular instance is there were bullets around an enemy and it teleported right in front of me, not directly on top of me, but because the bullets were around it, the bullets actually reached me, so I don't know how I was supposed to dodge that. But then again, maybe there's a way which you have to position yourself in order to get through it. And of course, because I beat Delirium, thankfully I had Godhead and all of those other crazy items with Judas, and we were just dealing a ton of damage, we managed to get to the end with 48,622 points, which is very, very good. You know, I always say, whenever you can get close to 50,000 points, you know that you've had a good daily, especially in a round that goes to Shoal. And in this case, you can see that my score overall was just amazing in some regards. I didn't get a lot of Shrek bonus. If I found a way to break the game, that would have been obviously quite good, but there weren't any restock machines, which I'm really proud of, or at least very happy for. My item penalty was quite low, based, or at least compared to other players from what I've seen, and my damage penalty was maybe a bit higher, but that's just the nature of me. I tend to walk into things a lot, but it still wasn't too high. But you can see, if I just played a bit faster, and if my damage penalty was just a little bit lower, I would actually be able to get to 50,000 points, and I think that would put me in the top 3. And as I was now, I think I was 9th or maybe 8th in the top 10 leaderboard, so the competition was really tight today. I know that all of my friends, or at least every person I follow in that particular instance, was in the top 10, and all of our scores were actually very similar, and everybody was just listed there. But that was kind of entertaining to see. But overall, a really enjoyable run. I hope that you played it yourself. I don't see many ways that it could go. I imagine it had a powerful run either way, so maybe this one doesn't have as much room for discussion. But if I had one thing to say, if you played the daily seriously, I think it's a good idea to remember why we played them in the first place, to have fun and just to compare runs and strategies to each other, and maybe learn something new about the game that we all play and love. I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I hope to see you next time.